I didn't come this far to only come this far. Like I'm playing the happy to be here card. If we lose, I'm not gonna lose a wink of sleep unless Terry McLaurin drops like the game-winning touchdown at the last second. That's the only way that this game will haunt me. And like I like the Lions. I want the Lions to win the Super Bowl. It would be awesome. I can't pick against my team. Like
And we welcome you to your divisional preview of Wilk and Wiss, your bi-weekly update on Utah athletes in the National Football League. My name is Tanner Wilkinson. He is Cole Wissinger. Liking the hat, Cole. It's taken us a minute to coordinate
I like
and
the
get
hat,
this
Tanner.
set. Big shout out to a very specific fan who gave us these hats. My brother, Braden Wilkinson, who lives in D.C., and we'll make that D.C. connection here in a moment.
They call it the Rob Lowe, I think
They
is
do
the
call
move.
it the Rob Lowe. So
Supporting the shield.
I don't know that I've really mentioned this, and I don't even know if I'm really supposed to mention this at this point, but why the heck not? Because we got to tell the story of the hats. So
Yeah.
my brother gets married this past summer. His wife is from North Carolina. That's where they met, was at UNC. Her uncle, her mom's brother, who was a BYU grad, um, is the CEO of NFL Network. Brian Rolap is his name. He is on the short list of potential replacements when Goodell decides he doesn't want to be commissioner anymore. Okay.
When he
Um,
decides he doesn't want to make hundreds of millions of dollars a year. When's he going to make that decision, you think?
yeah, it's I think we're still a ways off on that. But they for Thanksgiving they were in New York. His sister-in-law moved there to be a lawyer, literally living like in suits. And is in they spent Thanksgiving up at her place in New York, and Brian hooked them up with a tour of the NFL offices where the studio is. I don't think they got to go into the red zones because it was holiday, so there wasn't a ton of stuff going on. It was the day before Thanksgiving.
I mean, the
Some of that.
thing New York's got is the replay booth, right? Like when they say, let's go to New York.
Yes. The coolest thing that they got to go into was where they make the schedule. They were in that room. They met the director, like the main guy in charge of that, which is really cool. And he snagged a hat for me and a hat for you. These were
Look at
gifts
that.
from the NFL offices. Specifically
Doesn't
the
get more official.
and specifically he wanted me to have the black one because of the Rob Lowe at that pack. It was a Packers game years. I don't remember where it was
It,
at,
it was
but
an NFL game, Tanner.
it
That was the important thing.
because the NFL is the best league in the entire world. No questions about it. I love every team. Which
Thank
is
you for
what made
strict.
that so great. Like just knowing his character from Parks and Rec, like that is what the hat Chris Traeger would wear as Rob Lowe. Anyway, shout out to the younger Wilk for hooking us up. We're sorry it's taken us a minute to coordinate and wear these on the same day. Cole, how's the move stuff going, real quick, by the way, before we introduce our guest after that long-winded story of how we got these hats for
Well, I,
Christmas?
I can give you the tour. That's a bed that's in a bag. That's just like
Okay.
things
Uh-huh.
in pieces around the room. This is where I normally record. And we move tomorrow, and so everything is in bags and boxes in
Yeah.
my entire house, including most of my hats. But these are just in that dresser that is right there. So I got to open the drawer when I saw you
Mm.
rocking it, and had to quickly pivot.
Yeah, so shout out to Braden Wilkinson for hooking us up there. He lives in DC. Let's introduce our guest. That whole town
Let's.
is feeling pretty good right now. Jackson Payne of the Deseret News joining us after the first Commander playoff win in, was it 20 or 19 years, Jackson? I forget.
It was 19 years. Yeah, I was in kindergarten the last time we won a playoff game, so I have no recollection of any playoff wins in my lifetime until this Sunday. Just I'm on fire, the town's on fire, just everything is awesome, I'm just this is joy.
I thought you couldn't get any happier than you were when we had you on the show about a month or two ago.
When we had you
It
on right after freaking Dan Snyder had to sell the team, I thought that was going to be the peak of Jackson Payne. It keeps getting better, just it's like never give up on your dreams because things can always get better. And just the thing, I mean, I'm sure we'll go deeper on the Commanders and the year that they've had, but like you couldn't get this script sold in Hollywood because it just seems so far-fetched, right? Like the worst owner in the history of sports arguably sells the team. He sells it to a group that it's Magic Johnson and all these other billionaires who loved the team their whole lives. They draft the quarterback. They get the handsome GM that every other team wants. They get the right head coach. They get the Heisman winning quarterback. They just start winning games left and right. They have all these dramatic wins. The fans start coming back. They're going back to RFK. They win a playoff game. They win on Hail Marys. I mean, just everything that's happened is so Hollywood. It's like at some point, like, I think about like Chiefs fans, like how boring it must be to be a Chiefs fan. And then I've had like maybe 0.5% of the joy that they've had this year with the Commanders, just and it never gets old. And so no matter what, winning is so much fun, and I'm never going to take it for granted because of just how awful things were for so long. And I'm just man, this is every sacrifice I've made to be a fan of this team, my dignity, my moral compass, my joy, all was worth it to feel what I feel right now. So I'm extremely happy.
Interestingly enough, today, 9 years to the day, the last time the Cardinals won a playoff game. So I am starting to traject towards that 19-year drought as well. I remember where I was when this happened. Had only been home for my mission for like he's 6 months, I think, at this point, a little over 6 months. At this point, it was the divisional round against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers throws the Hail Mary to force overtime. My brother is a diehard Packers fan, and then Arizona wins it in overtime. A broken play that leads to a Larry Fitzgerald like 75-yard reception. They get down to like the two, little shovel pass wins the game. I was on a bus. I had just called like either the second or third play-by-play experience of my life down in Blanding, Utah, San Juan,
Oof,
which is
that is a drive.
the worst. Here's the thing, man. Like going to San Juan is not fun. Coming back from San Juan, knowing how far you have to go, is far worse. I made that drive for the first time in almost 9 years, 2 weeks ago, 2 Saturdays ago. I hadn't been back in that long. But it was
Did you just
interesting
hit the
because
four corners while you were there? Like it's right there,
well,
right?
it's not. That's the worst part. Like it's still like another hour and a half, hour
Oh
45
man.
away. Like it's technically like the furthest southeast you can go in the state. Well, I think there's another tiny town like another 45 minutes south, but like it's not worth the extra drive to go to Four Corners because it's still so far away. But what was interesting about this is I remember it was a radio only game. This was before the TeamHive.live streaming era. So it was a radio only game. They sent me down on the bus with this high school team, which was it was my alma mater. I knew a bunch of the kids that were seniors were freshmen when
Yeah,
I so I
yeah.
you know I knew my brother was a freshman on this bus, and we had horrible service coming back. So I didn't get to watch. This is early,
Oh,
like the Peyton Eli football on your phone song was only like a couple years old, so people still really hadn't figured out how to watch football on your phone.
right.
Um, Long-winded story, very sporadic service, getting updates. My brother's doesn't even talk to me. Would I give him a ride home after they drop us off at the school 9 years ago? So Jackson, hoping I don't have to wait 19. Still happy you got to watch that be broken this weekend.
I appreciate that. And you know what? I don't think I like the direction the Cardinals are in. I like Gannon. I mean, I think, and with that division too, just it's kind of like the NFC East where like you never get the same team in the playoffs every year. Like there's so much parity in the NFC West. Like it's gonna happen eventually. They're gonna win a playoff game, and it is the greatest feeling in the world, as you know. I mean, just that Larry Fitzgerald. I remember that Larry Fitzgerald game. I was a sophomore in high school. I love Larry Fitzgerald because actually, little known fact about me, my first name is Lawrence. Jackson is my middle name. So Larry
All right.
Fitzgerald, I always had a soft spot for that guy because he's a Lawrence too, and the Lawrence Battalion. We're a few but proud, and so I got to support every Lawrence I can. So I love my boy Larry Fitz, but that game was electric, and I mean, I really wanted the Cardinals to win that year. I mean, I think the
Stupid Panthers, man. That was
stupid
such a rough
Panthers.
NFC championship game. Your boy Ron Rivera, who had his one, his one
Mm-hmm.
his one really good year coaching, man, ruined it for us.
I was gonna say, of course, my villain of villains, Ron Rivera, was the one to thwart that. But no, man, they're just. I mean, watching. Speaking of Arizona, on the Arizona State side, Zane Gonzalez, the former Sun Devil kicker, seeing him hit the game winner after all the OCD theatrics he had and doinking it in. I mean, I don't know if you saw. My wife tweeted the video. She filmed my reaction without me knowing, and I was just going berserk. I was just. I mean, this literally. I have
Mm-hmm.
no recollection of any Redskins playoff anything in my life. I've watched one before Sunday. I'd watched one Redskins playoff game in my life in 2015 when the Packers beat us at home to go then play the Cardinals the next week. Because when they went in 2020 and lost to Tom Brady in the Taylor Heineke pylon dive game, I was on my mission.
Mm.
Mhm.
They went in '07, they went in 12, they went in '05, and for whatever reason, I do not remember watching any of those games. And so like I've watched two Redskins playoff games in my life and or Commanders, Washington football team, whatever. And the one that I got was just absolute perfection. I mean, I would there's just the way that this team has been this year, just kind of the ragtag underdog group. Like I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. I want the late drama. I want to see Jaden in these great moments where he becomes a legend because I mean he's got that Tom Brady like killer instinct where his heartbeat just like slows down in the fourth quarter and he makes every perfect throw. He makes the right read. He doesn't panic. And for a rookie to do that, especially I mean, he's like what, 120 pounds soaking wet. Like to have that little fear when you're that fragile.
Spinning in the air off the sideline. Like that
Yeah,
was the
like
Jaden Daniels that even his draft detractors said this man has no fear in a derogatory way. Like this is he's gonna go scream this is jackass and just spin and get hit and hurt himself.
he
And
was
yet,
he was getting wily coyoted in the SEC.
yeah,
Like and now I mean just it just adds to his charm, man. He's got no fear. He's a competitor. He's always got that smile on his face. I love seeing him go down and just kind of end other teams' dreams. And Detroit, I have nothing against Detroit. I love what they do. I'm a big Dan Campbell guy. I love seeing Jared Goff have that awesome career renaissance, and those fans have suffered a long time like we have. But I mean, I would like to see Detroit win a Super Bowl, but it's my guys versus their guys. Like, I don't mind seeing Jaden break a few more hearts. Like, I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna
mm-hmm.
complain.
Yeah, so Washington's the only wild card team that wins last week. The only like underdog, the only lower seed to go on the road, and they do it against Tampa, which seemed to be like a team that could have their number, right? Tampa's defense always shows up in that first round of the playoffs. They're able to contain rushing quarterbacks usually, but a couple late game mistakes and Jaden, like you just can't give it to him. Tie game with less than six to go. Like they just, it's such a lock.
It's crazy too. I mean, if they had done it against like, I'm trying to think of a random team, like doing it against the Bucks in Tampa is a big deal. Not just, I mean, a lot of Skins fans made the trip down, so they kind of had they kind of did what other teams do at FedEx Field where they take over. And I'm not saying it was majority Commanders fans there, but like there were enough that it wasn't like the most hostile of environments. But like a lot of that 2020 Super Bowl team that Tampa had is still there, right? Like those
Yeah.
are battle tested guys that have played deep into the playoffs and I mean they've made the playoffs each of the last 5 years. This is a battle tested playoff familiar team and Jaden Daniels as a rookie with a bunch of other guys playing their first playoff game or playing their first playoff game in forever, or just, didn't have any of that playoff experience, went toe to toe with this group. And this is going to sound petty of me. Like, I have nothing really against Baker Mayfield. Like, I think he's had a cool career arc, but like, just at one point in the game, I was thinking, I was like, there's no way that Baker Mayfield will get to three playoff wins before Jaden gets to one. Like just he's the best player on the field. He's going to get the job done at the end. And I think what really impresses me the most about how they won that game in Tampa is they got the ball back with just under 5 minutes left to play and they never gave the ball back to Tampa. They
Yeah.
went they ran the clock down. And what makes that so impressive, one is it's a rookie doing it on the road, as we talked about, but they can't run the ball. The Commanders' run game has been so bad lately, aside from Jaden. Jaden is their one guy that can actually run the ball effectively, and it's usually out of structure when the play breaks down. Like Brian Robinson Jr. has been terrible. Austin Eckler's hit or miss. He's been out the last few weeks until week 18 and he had a solid fourth quarter, but still, I mean, they can't run the ball, and yet they're draining so much time off the clock. Like their short passing game is basically an extension of the run game. Cliff Kingsbury is just in his bag all the time. I really hope he doesn't get hired by someone else because I would love to see them with a better roster next year. I think we're going to be safe. I think he realizes, as long as the Cardinals are paying him his full salary, might as well stick to the coordinating job and not
Yeah.
give that up, right? No, I'm not trying to rub salt in the wound. I'm
It, it,
spitting a
it,
legitimate fact.
if I'm a Commander fan, I'm saying the same thing,
Exactly, right?
without
Like,
question.
why would you give up a Cardinals paycheck when you could also be working with arguably the best quarterback in the NFC? instead of going to a team that sucks and trying to cut your teeth and make it better there, right? Like, well, it's a Ben Johnson situation, right? Like, why would Ben Johnson leave after last year when he could have this past year that he's had, right? So, I mean,
Why
just the
would you
fact,
leave this year whenever there's still so much unfinished business in that Detroit? If Washington pulls off the upset against Detroit, it's got to feel terrible because Detroit had set all this up and they've just had the worst injury luck imaginable. And now it seems like Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn will probably get poached off before they get a chance to see it through. That's going to be heartbreaking
yeah,
for
I mean,
everyone other than Washington fans.
look, here's the thing though. If you're Detroit, like, it's one thing to get your heart broken by like the Packers or the Eagles or a team like that that's kind of had success or is a typical juggernaut or right, but like to lose against Washington, like I know Detroit fans are kind of crazy now. They've let a little bit of the fame get to their head, but like if you lose to Washington, I know Washington's got Super Bowl appearances and they've got some trophies, but like I mean, no one's had a worse quarter century than the Commanders, right? Like it's one of the best stories when like two of your historically downtrodden franchises can go against each other in an effort to exercise some demons, right? Like this is awesome theater. And so look, for me, it's icing on the cake, right? Like we won a playoff game. That's more than I've ever seen in my lifetime. We have a guy that can win us Super Bowls in the future, and we have a core that we can keep around. We have the head coach, we have the coordinator, we have the GM. Everything is awesome in Washington. And so their roster is extremely flawed still. They still have work to do. They're not a Super Bowl team this year. If they beat Detroit, great. That'd be an awesome story. Just why not us, right? But if they lose to Detroit, it's still so much more than anybody could have ever expected this year. I mean, I think I told you guys I wanted 7 wins before this season, just 7 wins and know that Jaden's the guy going forward. And I've got nearly twice that in both aspects almost because Jaden not only is the guy, but he's a future MVP in this league, right?
Offensive Rookie of the Year.
He's the offensive rookie of the year. He's borderline all pro. I mean, obviously Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson were incredible, but like Jaden, in terms of pure value to his team, I mean, how many other quarterbacks can go toe to toe with what he's done this year? And so, I mean, if you beat Detroit, great. But at the same time, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm going to be watching that game from the Huntsman Center as BYU and Utah playing basketball, and I'm kind of grateful for that because like I'm a stress case. I get my 2,000 steps in during every game. It's pretty embarrassing, but for that Detroit game, I'm gonna be namaste. Just like, you know what? Like we win, it's great. We lose, we had a great year. Happy to be here next year. Let's go win the division and get to the NFC title game at least. But that's the thing though. If it's a close game in the fourth quarter, I'm gonna have to leave the arena because I might not be breathing pretty well then. So, but it's gonna be an awesome matchup. I love that one of two fan bases will hopefully be going to the next round and or one of the two fan bases will be going to the next round and hopefully representing the NFC in a Super Bowl because both fan bases deserve it. And I know I'm biased for saying that, but like we deserve this. We had Dan
No,
Snyder. We had sewage raining on our fans. We had to change our name twice. Okay, like I never got to see the Redskins win a playoff game, but at least I got to see the Commanders.
I love that you went there because I had a question sitting in my back pocket. I wasn't sure if we were going to get there, but we only have 4 games to talk about. So let's take a second. These are the Commanders and the Lions, maybe are two of the most long-suffering fans of like our lifetimes. And they both seem to have emerged from the wilderness. So what fan base do now Commanders fans feel bad for? Like what fan base has now plummeted below what we thought to have been the lowest low? In your opinion?
That's tough because there's so many aspects because I feel like the Commanders had for the longest time they kind of had the trifecta. They had like the pentagram of suck. I think pentagram is the right pentagon maybe. Like there was a five-pointed suck
Yeah.
uh situation. The owner sucks, the the stadium sucks, the team sucks, the quarterback situation sucks, and just the reputation around the league sucks. And that's kind of, I mean, a lot of those that like the one thing that sucks still is the stadium, and they've tried to make improvements at FedEx, but it sounds like they're going to RFK and they're going to build a palace there, and it's going to be great. And so I don't think any team has ever truly had all five of those in like complete unison, right? Like
Yeah.
every team either at least has a quarterback or they have a stadium. Maybe Jacksonville. I mean, the Jaguars might be up there.
Jags might not have a home. Like for 10 years, we've been talking about the London Jaguars. So that's pretty rough.
Yeah, but at least one, they have cool colors. Two, they have a cool quarterback, and three, they live in Florida, right? Like there's how bad could it be? I think the team I'd feel the worst for, it's either the Chargers or the Raiders, because the Raiders ownership sucks. The Davis family's terrible. Um,
But they got Tom Brady involved now. Like
they
they
got
they
Tom Brady
sold off
involved,
so much to get more cash flow.
but like how what is that gonna do, right? Like Michael Jordan showed up to the Wizards and made things worse, right? Like is Tom Brady destined to be the same? And the Chargers too. I mean, like I just feel bad because they've never had anything, and their fans in San Diego got left, and it might be the Raiders just because like I've always thought of the Raiders as like the West Coast Redskins, like not relevant since the '80s. Can never get quarterback right. Always like the ownership sucks, but now they have a palace in Vegas, and it looks like they might get their quarterback in this draft. But I got to go with the Raiders, especially because now, like, I mean, the Chiefs were so good, or the Broncos were good for so long, so they're getting bullied by the Broncos, and as soon as the Broncos run ends, the Chiefs get good, and so the Raiders are just kind of a
Mm-hmm.
punching bag for that division. So I'm gonna go with the Raiders right now. I mean, maybe I'm missing somebody like
I
pretty
mean, you
egregious.
just named the betting favorite to land Ben Johnson.
Yes,
As so, if there's going to be another team that makes a Phoenix like rise, it could be the Raiders.
it'd be
Now
great.
with
I think the Jets could be up there too, but I refuse to feel bad for them just because I hate New York. Like there's nothing like I mean, I guess the Jets kind of fall in like the New York Mets category rather than like the Yankees category. I think it's like Jets, Nets, Islanders, Mets.
the Jets and
Like
Giants are both the Mets, though. Like that's
that's
what's great
like
about New York right now.
everything about the Jets sucks. Like I want the worst for them. So I'm not gonna feel bad for them. I think I'm gonna go with the Raiders in terms of like who I feel worst for, but I'm happy. Like I guess I kind of feel bad like for other teams when they have bad owners because like the Orioles ownership sucked for a while, the Redskins ownership sucked for a while, but at the same time, just like it's just so nice to be free of that, to not have that lingering over you, to not be embarrassed, to not have the DEA raiding your practice facility, to not be breaking oath in congressional hearings because of wrongdoing, right? Like all this non-football crap that you would find in the other aspects of Washington being associated with the football team was just so heavy, man. Like I had cancer. That was worse than cancer, right? And so it's just so nice to focus on ball, and the ball that you can focus on is Jaden bleeping Daniels. So it's a wonderful life.
Well, let's get to what should be a wonderful weekend of playoff football. ESPN 2:30 on Saturday. The Texans are at the Chiefs. Houston looked a lot better. We picked Houston, Cole, and I was still surprised at how well they play. I thought if Houston's going to win this game, it's going to be a come down to a last second field goal. Not the case. They jumped the start. So do they do that against Kansas City? No, they do not. I'm taking the Chiefs. Um, I picked against Kansas City twice last year in the playoffs. Cannot do that again yet this year. So I'm going with the Chiefs in the divisional round.
Yeah, our pick'em is so tight between us. You can't wish cast in this playoffs. You gotta pick what you think, and you can't pick against the Chiefs right now. I'm with you.
I think it's physically impossible for the Chiefs to go one and done, right? They've never done in the Mahomes era. I think the last time they did was against the Titans when Mariota threw the touchdown to himself. Do you remember that game? I think
Mm-hmm.
that would have been Mahomes' rookie year, the last Alex Smith year.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, that feels like a lifetime ago. Mariota's our backup now in Washington. We got two different team names since then, but I digress. Yeah, it's impossible for the Chiefs to lose this game. I don't think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. Spoiler alert. That's a hill I'll die on, but they're not going one and done. They're going to beat the Texans, and I don't think it'll be particularly close.
And it was actually, if I'm remembering right, because there's been a lot of talk around my football, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the last Steelers playoff win was against an Alex Smith Chief. Yeah, so that was the year before. Mahomes' rookie year was 17. The Chiefs were in the divisional round in 16, and the Steelers beat them. And it's been since then since I've seen a win,
Hmm.
which is it's a different kind of purgatory. It's not like we've been bad, but it's you
It's
know
like Vikings purgatory, which is like
no
it's
nothing is quite Vikings purgatory.
but
That is a
it's just like regular season's fun, playoffs less fun, right? Like I mean,
Well,
at least you have some hardware to
can,
show.
can we talk about the fact that like Sam Darnold lost to the same two teams the two times
And
he
that's
played
it.
them, and that's it. Like, I did not realize, for whatever reason, that I didn't realize that was the stat until today. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, Detroit twice in the regular season, that controversial Thursday night Rams game, and then yeah, just wild.
So we're all on Kansas City. Let's go to a game that I imagine we will split. One of the most competitive games. This is just the fact that we get Baltimore and Buffalo, two teams that are at full strength, the two MVP candidates. I'm I'm gonna wait since I get to announce it.
Mm,
I'm not gonna pick first. I'm gonna pick last. Tanner,
I
what's
like
your pick?
that. Buffalo answered a lot of questions for me last week. Matt Milano, I think, is a difference maker now that he is healthy. I think has a chance to be one of the best playoff games ever, given how these two teams played in the regular season. Just the quarterback play alone is as chef's kiss as you could get, just as an innocent bystander. I'm going to take Buffalo. I think being at home gives them just enough of an edge that they right the wrong that happened to them in the regular season.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be an all-timer. I mean, this is Lamar versus Josh Allen is just chef's kiss, right? Like this is I cannot believe how lucky we are to get this matchup. I'm gonna go with the Bills as well. I have a soft spot for the Ravens being from Baltimore, but like the Ravens destroyed the Bills earlier this year, and I just don't think that happens twice. It's really hard to beat a team twice in the same year, no matter whether you're division or not. And I just don't see the Ravens doing it again, right? And I think the Bills being at home makes a lot of sense. I think all the MVP discourse between Lamar and Josh Allen is a big deal. And Lamar is very much the I took that personally of the NFL. Like he seems to step up in those situations, but I feel like it means more for the Bills as a team than it does for Lamar personally. Like guys are going to be fighting for Josh, like on behalf of Josh on the Bills in a way that they won't for Lamar, right? Like, and I'm not saying Lamar's not like liked by his team or anything, but just like the Ravens are such a complete team that even without Lamar, they'd be a good like if you put like Russell Wilson on the Ravens, like the Ravens would still probably win that division, right? Like their defense is good, they have Derrick Henry, they're a solid team. Without Josh Allen, the Bills suck. Let's be totally honest, right? Like Josh Allen is Superman in Buffalo. Like this could be like the Josh Allen game. I got to go with the Buffalo Bills. I mean, no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, and there's no way that the Ravens are going to circle their wagons twice in the same year.
I but I look at how the Ravens won. So I was already leaning Baltimore before you guys picked it, and so I'm glad I get to go a little against the grain here. I'm picking Baltimore because truly the weakness that we talked about preseason of the Bills, the reason that people were down on the Bills this year because the roster supporting Josh Allen wasn't going to be as good. We didn't know Josh Allen was going to be a league MVP. I mean, Tanner and I thought a little higher of them than some national media, but whatever. And the way that they beat them early on was without Matt Milano, and yes, he's back, but right, not 100%. That spine of the defense from the linebackers through the safety is weak. And Derrick Henry had 24 carries, 199 yards, and a touchdown the first time these two teams played. He's probably not getting there, but Derrick Henry gets stronger as the season goes on and as the weather gets cold. And this is going to be a miserable kind of Buffalo, snowy January game. And it's going to be Derrick Henry that can lean on that and that can. The Ravens are just so versatile in how they can win that no matter how the first quarter goes, if Buffalo throws something at them that they weren't expecting defensively, I believe the Ravens can pivot more than just Buffalo saying, Josh Allen, go do something. Like there are still flaws in that roster that I don't think that they can overcome. And so I'm going to take Baltimore.
Have you seen the weird stat where it's every 12 years the Ravens win the Super Bowl with a 28?
Yes, with a 28-year-old quarterback, exactly.
That's the one thing that's like making me really hesitant like to pick the Bills. Like I do think the Bills win this game, but that's the one thing in the back of my head that I'm just like, I don't know, Jim. Like I just that's a big sample size to happen twice, right? Like this is and also this feels a lot like I think that last year's Ravens team was better than this year, but they kind of had to go through that playoff heartbreak to have kind of a weirder year this year, finish on the right
I think this year's
note.
Lamar is better than last year's Lamar, even if he doesn't get the MVP and Josh Allen does take it.
But it's
This
very
Lamar in year two of Todd Monken is good.
it's very similar to the 2011 and 2012 Ravens, where the 2011 team was probably better, but they needed that playoff heartbreak to come back the next year with a vengeance. And that's just, I mean, it's the same thing with the Ravens. Like the Ravens probably should have beat the Chiefs last year in the AFC title game, and kind of weirdness. The refs didn't give it to the Chiefs, but like there was weirdness that you couldn't have expected, right? And so I feel like the Ravens maybe needed that kick in the ass a little bit, like to figure things out and have maybe a bit of an awkward at times year this year and then figure it out down the stretch and go to the playoffs hot. But I still, I mean, I can't resist Josh Allen. I don't know. I'm a simp for my boy Mr. Steinfeld. Like I can't resist playing in Buffalo. And I just it's so it I find it hard to believe that the Bills will lose in Buffalo 2 years in a row,
Mm.
right? 'Cause they hosted the Chiefs last year. Just there's so many things, like it's such a 50-50 game. It's killing me inside. But like I just gotta go with the Bills. I mean, I
See,
just
I also you talk about that Ravens Chiefs matchup. I got my fingers crossed to see Lamar versus Spagnuolo round three because the way that last year ended, starting this year, all those questions we had about the Ravens offensive line, it seemed were, oh man, like this is going to be a problem. They've got it figured out so far, but I want to see what like a full season in. I want that AFC Championship game. I think a little bit more than even Josh Allen. That's the those are the two NFCs.
Oof.
Over to did I say NF? Those are two AFCs.
Yeah,
Now over to
that's
the
okay.
NFC.
Commanders Lions, let's talk about it. It's Saturday on Fox at 6 p.m. prime time. I'm going to be flipping between that and the basketball game Jackson's going to be covering a little later on. I got to go with Detroit. Again, I echo what Jackson was saying earlier. I think the Commanders exceeded so many expectations that it wouldn't surprise me if Detroit does not cover. I feel like 9.5 is a little high. Um, Detroit just seems like the team of destiny in the NFC, even with these injuries, even with the issues. They had a bye. Hopefully, guys are a little bit fresher. I mean, we saw what just having Alex Anzalone back for that final game did.
Yeah.
Do they get a couple of these other guys a little fresher? Is David Montgomery going to play? Like, that's wild that David Montgomery might play in this game. I'm taking Detroit.
I'm going to take the Lions too. This has potential to be one of those graphics where it's just everyone in the world picks the Lions and Washington gets to rub it in everyone's face. But you should pick the Lions, even though the Commanders have been such a cool story.
I should pick the Lions.
But
But I can't pick against my team when I'm wearing all
good.
the merch. That's such a weak move, right? And like I didn't come this far to only come this far. Like I'm playing the happy to be here card. If we lose, I'm not gonna lose a wink of sleep unless Terry McLaurin drops like the game-winning touchdown at the last second. That's the only way that this game will haunt me. And like I like the Lions. I want the Lions to win the Super Bowl. It would be awesome. I can't pick against my team. Like I think that Detroit has so many ways that they can hurt us, but I think at the same time Detroit's defense is so flawed and they have no answer for Jaden Daniels. And you look at what Detroit did against Minnesota, and so much of that was Minnesota playing Sam Darnold and their offensive line being terrible. And Jaden Daniels is just leaps and bounds ahead of Sam Darnold. Like he's not going to get sacked as many times as the Lions got to him. Detroit could be rusty. Detroit could lay an egg. All the pressure's on Detroit, right? Like everyone's picking them to win. They should win the Super Bowl, ideally, right? Like, but the Commanders are just, I mean, house money is a dangerous thing sometimes. And I mean, look, I know it's not likely, but like, I think they have a chance. Like, there's a legit chance they could win this game just because it's a shootout. And if Jaden Daniels gets the ball last, you all know how that ends. But I don't think the Commanders are going to win, but I have to pick them because they're my boys.
Yep.
And I've always wanted to pick my team to go to an NFC title game. Okay, like just that could be so depressing of me to admit. Just please let me have this one. I don't care if we lose. I'm so happy to be here, but give me Washington.
Love to see it. Other game potential for an NFC all NFC East championship game. The Rams and the Eagles. The Rams with Sean McVay, I will never doubt them in the preseason again, but this just isn't the buttoned up Rams team that really has Super Bowl aspirations, whereas Saquon truly has elevated the Eagles over the course of this year, and I am taking Philadelphia.
Yeah, Philadelphia has Saquon. The Los Angeles Rams did not have to go against Saquon last week. That's why their defense was so good, even with, Aaron Jones having a solid year in Minnesota. He's not Saquon. That's going to cause a lot of issues. I like Philadelphia.
I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop for the Eagles. Call me a hater because I hate them, but I just something has always seemed a little bit off about the Eagles. McVay's a far better coach than Sirianni. Matt Stafford, he gets on these runs in the playoffs. I mean, this just every year he's won a playoff game so far. He's won the Super Bowl and he's won a playoff game this year. It's a small sample size, but like I like the Eagles. I like the Rams. I feel like this is I think the LA wildfires thing is a big deal right now. I think they got to be amped up for that. I think the Eagles are on fraud watch for me personally. Like I don't know. I think that their passing game is just so wrong right now. I know Saquon's from a different planet, but Kyron Williams is the way that the Rams use him in the run game is so strong. I'm going with LA, and I don't care. I don't care how wrong I am. I'm never going to pick the Eagles, and I'm never going to pick against my boys. So suck it.
Love it. Jackson, appreciate you, my man. Cole, hope enjoy the move. And hey, we'll see how this weekend turns out, boys. Once again, this has been Wilk and Wiss, your bi-weekly update on Utah athletes in the National Football League. Go enjoy your divisional weekend.